The Vaccines, pickup full of pink carnations album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from The Vaccines, perennial cult favorite of mine in the early 2010s. I really fell in love with their sound. I mean, at the time I was kind of still going through my post-punk revival phase in a little bit of a way, but I had also kind of transitioned to a very sweaty, very energetic garage rock. And while not up to that standard, the Vaccines' debut album, what else would you expect from the Vaccines? I thought this was an awesome debut. This album's not going to be for everybody, but there is a simplicity to this record, and the hooks, my goodness, that at the time I just was completely in love with. I still love it to this day. That was great. The few years after were really not. As a matter of fact, they were pretty bad. 2012's Come of Age. I thought this thing was a huge decline for the band. This was a clunky mess of a record that had the band sounding like they just really wanted to be the Libertines or something. And while tracks like Teenage Icon and Ghost Town are actually really great, as a whole, I was not feeling it. A lot of the same feelings on English Graffiti, tracks like Dream Lover. Honestly, really good. Denial too, really great track, but overall, once again, I found it sounded like the Vaccines were just kind of wandering around and really just desperate to fit in. Yeah, I kind of wrote the band off in a big way, but the Combat Sports record that they put out a couple of years back, I thought that was actually pretty good, and I understand, a lot of the reservations some people had on this thing. I mean, it is pristine as hell. It is one of the cleanest indie pop records you're gonna hear. Also, the cliches are certainly there in spirit, but God, once again, the hooks, when the Vaccines really focus in and really set their sights on a hook, there is a few bands that I can think that are genuinely more catchy than the Vaccines. Now, ever since Combat Sports, once again, I have had a lot of reservations with the band. Their Cozy Karaoke EP. God, this was really bad. Nobody wants your sleepy ass cover of Queens of the Stone Age's No One Knows. Absolutely nobody asked for that. Also, Back in Love City, their last album landed on my worst albums of the year list, and let me tell you, for good reason. So I find myself in a spot where I never really know what to expect from the Vaccines, and this time around I thought that the singles were really solid leading up to this thing, and you know what, I give credit where it's due. It's been a rough few years, but this is just a really fun and breezy indie pop record. The album starts off with Sometimes I Swear, and this is very Combat Sports era Vaccine sounding. It's very sweet on the ears, indie pop, but it is arena-sized, and much like some of their best stuff. It's very clean. The production on this thing, it's very spotty. But this track is all a build-up to this gigantic chorus. And it's a great one. I mean, is it reinventing any sort of wheels in these genres? Absolutely not. No way. Not even close. There's going to be plenty of people that just do not enjoy this record or tracks like this. But for me, this is where I want to hear the band. It's so charming. It's so sweet. Every time this hook rolls around, I just want to belt it out. Thank God they got out of the funk of whatever the hell they were doing on Love City. And that goes double or maybe even triple for Heartbreak Kid. I think this is the best track here and just an awesome indie pop single. Once again, when the Vaccines truly focus on those hooks, they pump out some of their best material. This takes me back to a simpler time. Yes, the vocals are a little cheesy, but I can really kind of just let it go and enjoy it. And this hook is once again just, it's so good. It's so meaty. It's so carefree. Try not singing this for the entire day. By the time Lunar Eclipse rolls around, you kind of get this album's MO. It's another upbeat, very jangly, old-school indie pop tune. But I do love the upbeat energy and the urgency of this track, even if it doesn't have that same sweaty, erratic feeling of their debut album. But it's a jolly, sweet-on-the-ears tune that just puts me in a great mood, and it's, once again, just a great build-up to this big chorus. Yeah, it's not a bad record. I'm just going to warn you right now, we are not out of the woods yet with the Vaccines. When this album gets bad, it gets pretty spotty, let alone, I'll say, cringy too. Like Discounted Cooning, Last One Standing, this is the worst track here by far. I hear this and I get why people didn't like this record, or people aren't really talking about it that much. Totally get it. This is awkward. This is the indie pop equivalent of Blink-182 singing about the girl that got away while you're in your 50s. Come on. No, this track is clumsy, it's cringy, it's really weird and awkward. I mean, this sounds like Love City B-sides. I actually don't mind this track's nods to new wave, but we're better than this. Primitive Man is also really misguided. I mean, I don't know what's going on with this track. I mean, we're only 5 tracks into this album and they kind of sound burned out. This ho-hum instrumental and the lackadaisical verses, I'm getting zero effort here. And because of that, as this track rolls on, everything falls apart, including this chorus. This track here, this is what I worried would take up most of this album. And Anonymous and Los Feliz, to end this album off, they do not really stick the landing. This is once again really phoned in and the kind of track that I thought we'd hear a lot more of on this album. I mean, the hook is here, but everything else about this track just seems really phoned in. And listen, when these songs don't pop, they don't have that, big hook to really latch onto. These tracks really overstay their welcome. Thankfully, they did put their songwriting pants on for the second half of this album and actually put out some really decent material. Like Sunkissed, for example. No, is this track a lyrical masterpiece? Not at all. It's actually kind of cliche at points. But there's something so genuine and feel good about this track that I can't say no to it. It's not the usual upbeat anthem that we get from a band like the Vaccines. But what it is a really tender ballad with some genuinely sweet emotions attached to it. It's a simple statement, but it's one that absolutely works. Another Nightmare, also one of the best tracks here, maybe my favorite track. This one does take me back. There's an element of nostalgia on this track that is really inescapable for me. I really love the bulky bass riff and the looming guitar melody. It's very jangly. It's very old school once again. This vocal harmony as well is really, really awesome. Everything about this track is an earworm, especially that hook. Could have been a single, and Love to Walk Away is really great too. This is honestly the kind of track that would have drawn me to the Vaccines in the first place. Everything from the nods to jangle pop, the energy of this track, and the sort of lovelorn lyrics about everything from new relationships to really painful breakups. And yeah, it's straightforward as anything, but the band's pop sensibility does shine here. The energy is contagious, and while the songwriting isn't absolutely perfect, the Vaccines do make it work. And The Dreamer is also a track that I do really enjoy. I mean, is it jaw-dropping or life-changing? No, but I would take a track like this over 90% of what constitutes as indie pop these days. The urgency is here, the energy is here, they perform the hell out of this. Yeah, it's really not that bad of an album, and yes, it does have an ugly side to it, and it is a little straightforward, and there are some cliches, but the deal is with the Vaccines is the hooks. Their energy, when they laser focus in on writing catchy indie pop, there's few bands that can do it better than them. I just wish that, this band, put out a little bit more consistent material over the years and didn't have me so wishy-washy. But for now, while this album isn't reinventing the wheel, it's easily some of the catchiest rock music you're probably going to hear this year. I'm feeling a very light 7 on it, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.